Good morning. How are you? I hope you're doing well today. I'm coming to you this morning because I just want to show you something, a parallel that I'm going to hold this with this hand, a parallel that God showed me today that is pretty cool. Okay, so we always talk about the names of God, so Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Nisi, and those names. We talk about that. And then we have all sorts of names, like he's our deliverer, he's our counselor, Prince of Peace, mighty God. Okay, So there are all those names. But he got me thinking about the names that he calls us. So we are children of God. We are friend. We are the bride of Christ. We're actually also sibling to Christ, because Christ is his son, and God adopted us into the family. And so we're Christ's sibling, and he calls us priests. There's all sorts of names that he calls us. But then he showed me a cardinal. Now, I enjoy bird watching. It's something that I did a lot of when my oldest son was sick and we were at home a lot. And if I haven't talked about that, I can talk about that later. But anyway, he was sick and we were home a lot. And in the process of doing that, I got a bird feeder, and I just began to watch. And I tell ladies all the time, or young women, I guess I should say, that they want to find a Mr. Cardinal. They want to find a Mr. Cardinal. But then he made me think that we need to be Mrs. Cardinal. So let me go here. Every summer, spring and summer, a cardinal pair brood about 3 different broods. They raise, that's what I'm looking for. They raise 3 different broods. So the process begins when Mrs. Cardinal is being fed by Mr. Cardinal at the feeder. They love sunflower seeds, so they will both come to the feeder, and they will Mr. Cardinal peels sunflower seeds and hands them to her, and she'll eat them, and she waits very patiently. Now, you know as well as I do that she has full capability of peeling her own seed. But as a bride of Christ, aren't we supposed to let our groom provide for us and feed us and give us what we need, rather than doing it ourselves? So Mr. Cardinal does that. They then, and they've built nest already. They mate, and then Mrs. Cardinal sits on the nest. Guess what Mr. Cardinal does? Mr. Cardinal continues to get food, and he takes it to her now. Now, she was sitting right beside him at the feeder, but now he takes it to her and feeds it to her. He feeds it to her. See, he was proving his worth by feeding her while she was standing right there, or sitting right there right beside him. But now he takes it and he feeds her. Okay? So he continues to be faithful in his provision for her while she sits on the nest. If you will, she has birthed something, and she is incubating it. She is waiting patiently for that which he has given her to come to pass. Interesting. She's patient. She waits. Now cardinal babies are born, okay? So I don't know why. 2 to 3 seems to be the number. I've never seen more than that. But 2 to 3 seems to be the number. So, now they can both come, and they can leave the nest and both get food and feed the babies. Both get food. But she partners with him to do that, because he's been taking care of himself and her this whole time. But she partners with him and feeds the babies. Okay? She feeds the babies. Okay. Then those babies are big enough to leave the nest. She lets them go with their father. their Father continues to feed them. He continues to grow them. He continues to go now, instead of feeding Mrs., and he does that too. But so he feeds Mrs. Cardinal, but he feeds the babies. The babies will, all baby birds, I don't know why they do that. I mean, they're practicing their wings, I'm assuming, but they do that flutter, 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 and they open their mouths, right? Even when they're big enough to fly, they're still not big enough to crack the seeds themselves. They're still not big enough to provide for themselves. Anybody got any emerging adult children here? Okay. Yeah. So he feeds them and he takes care of them. And he also goes and feeds her. Why? She has already laid more eggs. She is getting ready for the next brood. The baby's left, and now there's room for the next brood. And now he is taking care of those babies, himself and her. The babies, the first set of babies, grow up, learn to do things for themselves, and start the process of being Mr. or Mrs. Cardinal themselves. And this cycle continues through 3 broods. How much can we learn? If we're the bride of Christ, Christ is most definitely Mr. Cardinal. He takes care of the babies that we've birthed. He takes care of the ideas that he's placed within us, the desires within our heart, the plans that he has for us, that he's birthed within us, that we then birth by being patient and allowing him and his timing. Mrs. Cardinal doesn't get so impatient that she leaves the nest and she goes to get her own food. No, she waits for him to bring it, and she waits for the eggs to hatch. We could learn a lot from Mr. and Mrs. Cardinal. He's your provider. He is your lover. He is your protector. He is the one who will take care of the future generation. He's birthed the future generation within you. Be a Mr. or Mrs. Cardinal today. Blessings.